words mean things. And I've noticed on Facebook particularly, I used to be more of a Twitter guy, but Twitter anymore is a little different. So I don't really, I don't really browse Twitter, but I see Facebook, my Facebook feed every day. And one of the things that I think is funny is people will use terms that have pretty much lost all meaning. I'll give you an example of one. When somebody, a politician, is labeled a rhino, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only. Quick side note, I was in a forum years ago and this guy wrote rhino like the animal rhino. And I don't think he knew what it meant. I think he thought like there were donkeys and elephants and rhinos. I really think that's what he was referring to the animal. And when I called him out, he tried to cover his tracks, but it was pretty obvious. I might get sidetracked again. So rhino used to classically mean like a Republican that was pro-choice. I mean, that's just my opinion. Somebody can tell me I'm wrong, but that's because that's what you had in your mind at the time. But generally, it might not necessarily just be on pro-choice, pro-life, but that was a very prominent way of identifying somebody that was labeled a rhino, like Rush Limbaugh. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh like religiously. Anybody that knew me back in the late 80s, early 90s, all the way up until I came here, I once AM radio became a thing where I was starting to listen to other media, I just didn't listen to him anymore, and I think he lost his way anyway with becoming a MAGA guy. But whatever. That's because I'm a never Trumper or a rhino squish or whatever. I'm not even a Republican, right? I'm not a Democrat. That's what, when people hear that I don't like Trump or I don't believe he has policies, it's all about like self-aggrandizement, in my opinion. You know, he loves his country. All the things that you'll hear Trump supporters say, well, of course you're going to believe that. I just don't, you should never believe politicians just because they say something, right? I mean, that's a pretty obvious thing. Anyway, I'm digressing now. So, getting back to the whole rhino thing. It used to be, you know, moderate Republicans would be, like Mitt Romney was famously labeled a rhino prior to him winning the nomination against Obama in 2012. Is that right? 2012. And you know, even John McCain in 2008 was kind of like labeled a rhino. And the reason for it is because he wasn't your right-wing politician. Now, you know, move forward to today, and rhino means you don't support Trump. That's like, Trump was pro-choice as far as I know. I've seen clips of him talking about how, and this was years ago now, he might have changed, you know, I'm not trying to pin him down on positions, but I saw him talking about getting rid of assault rifles years and years ago. And I don't believe any of the lefties will post these memes of Trump saying, if I ever run for president, I'll do it as the Republicans because the Republicans are stupid. It's like a widely debunked quote that Trump never said, but it plays well to the left audience, right? So there are other terms though that people get caught up on, and another one of them is when somebody says, you know, going to protect our democracy, and it inevitably, you know, somebody on the right. I really don't like using right and left because it's much more nuanced. But I think everybody kind of understands that in this context, Democrat, Republican, or whatever, there's all kinds of nuanced positions among those two, but you can't just draw this arbitrary line and say, this is you over here and these are these people. It doesn't work that way. But somebody will come in and say, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. And the reason Republicans do it is because Republican, it's like, of course we're not a pure democracy, but we do have a democratic form of government. I mean, these definitions matter, but the whole point gets lost if you get stuck on these, defining terms. If I say, yeah, that's a threat to the democracy, whatever topic it is, doesn't matter. It's a threat to democracy. And your response to me is, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Well, that's not my point, though. My point was this thing that I'm talking about that's the threat. And you are getting stuck on, it's a republic. And I say it that way. I did that before. I've kind of come back with it's a republic years and years ago. I remember somebody said to me, everybody knows what you mean when you say that, right? Meaning, when you say, protect the democracy, everybody knows that if you're an American, you're talking about protect our form of government. What you want to call it, you can call it Jim for all I care. That doesn't lend anything toward the point that was being made about the threat, right? And that happens a lot. Like, I will say something, and then the term that I use, somebody doesn't like or whatever. And you get caught up on talking about that difference in opinion on what the definition of a word is, even though the whole point is what should be being discussed, not what are we going to call this thing? Like, I'm from Wisconsin. If I say, I don't know if people are aware, but we call drinking fountains like that you would, when you were in elementary school, you push, the water comes out. We call them bubblers. I think maybe Pennsylvania calls them bubblers too, parts of it anyway. But if you ask somebody from Wisconsin what's a bubbler, they're going to know. I think people are blown away by that, like from other places. Down here in Alabama, they call shopping carts buggies, which drives me batty. I think it's a stupid sounding name for a shopping cart. But let's say we're talking about bubbler safety in school, and kids will get down, and maybe some of the saliva will drip on the bubblers, and if somebody says that's not a bubbler, that's a drinking fountain. Well, the point of the discussion is the sanitation of this thing that we're drinking out of. You didn't win anything. You didn't make any kind of point by saying it's a different name, right? You got to talk about, you got to know what we're talking about. I think sometimes people use that as a self-defense mechanism because they don't want to talk about the thing. They want to try to make it seem like they have some insight you don't, so they'll give you this stupid definition, differences in definitions or whatever. So another reason I made this video, not just the ramble, but I think sometimes people don't give people the benefit of the doubt when they write something. When you read what somebody writes and you disagree with it, your automatic reaction is to put up, like a barrier, like you're defensive about it. Or you have to try to put this person in a box. It happened to me last week. I made a post about a guy on a cruise that was wearing a Trump 2028 hat. And I said, something like, it's bad enough the regular ones, but this one's a special kind of, I forget what it was. I just made the point that, and it's not lost on me, by the way. A couple people pointed this out, my buddy from way back when, and a couple of buddies of mine, that it was just a way of trolling liberals. It's not lost on me that a significant portion of MAGA members are trolls. I mean, they love to troll the libs, but it's like, I'm as far from what you call a lib, and if you look at what these people think of as libs, is like, you know, the pink hair, the fishing tackle all in the face and all that stuff. People in MAGA try to make it seem as if those are the only possible people that could have any complaints or disagreements with Trump's administration, right? That's fringe. What you're doing there is you are like you're just knocking the low-hanging fruit off the tree. That's what it is. These people are performative. The fishing tackle folks or whatever. They can do what they want, but they try to use that caricature of like anti-Trump and make it seem as if, I mean, you could see I have no piercings anywhere. My hair is a little lighter than it used to be, but you know, it's still the same color. When I say lighter, it's fewer hairs, as my mom used to say. I used to give my mom a hard time about it because she would use the plural for hair. Are you going to get them cut? But rest in peace, my mother. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough. Wait, did I not finish the point? Oh yeah, the caricature thing. So I made this point, and what happened was another friend of mine that I haven't seen since 1985. That's how long it's been. He was my platoon sergeant. Hat tip to Dan. I enjoy reading a lot of stuff Dan writes. He's pretty in the camp of being a Trump supporter, but I think he has his own thoughts. He doesn't just go sharing like a million other people's opinions on Facebook. He actually writes his own little coffee talks and whatnot. But as soon as he saw that I was critical of Trump, he labeled me as TDS, right? And to me, it's so funny that any little slight disagreement that somebody like me will have with Trump, and I have lots. It's not like I have a slight disagreement. I have lots of reasons to oppose the guy, but I can logically explain them all. It's not some derangement that I have. But think about this. I go running in my neighborhood, and there's a guy up the road. He doesn't have it anymore, but his whole front porch, you know, the two posts that are in between, like where you'd walk into his door, he had built this out of, I don't know, he probably built it himself. It looked like an American flag, like boards, like 2x4s, red, white, and blue. And then Let's Go Brandon, right? The whole Let's Go Brandon thing. He had that on his porch. And he proudly displayed that thing until Trump won this election. Then there was a guy that lives in a town down the highway from my town that flew his flag upside down in a business. Small engine guy, anybody from this area knows. He flew his flag upside down the whole entire Biden administration. Now, if you asked those guys, if I went up to them and said, "Yeah, I don't think Trump's such a great president," yes, you know, they would be labeling me as the deranged guy. But you know, whatever. I don't like when people read into my posts that I make as if I don't have, because I'm not an emotional guy. And the same guy that I told you was my platoon sergeant, he said, when he saw mine, he said, "I thought you guys were about freedom of expression," or something like that. You guys, like he was painting me out to be this lefty hippie guy or something. It's like, there's not just this box and this box, and you're in this box, so everybody else must be in that box. It's like, if that's the way people see the world, they're not doing a very good job of looking around. Hate to say it.